Hello everybody and welcome back to SFF180. It is Monday morning, April the 27th, and time, yes, once again for the mailbag. I hope everybody is doing well. I hope you've been staying safe and healthy. I know this whole social isolation, quarantining thing has been going on for a very long time. We're all sick and tired of it, but it is what it is. And you know, we've got to do what we have to do to stay safe. So I hope you're staying safe. But the good news is I've got books this week, and not only physical books. What I have decided to do, and I've been talking back and forth via email with some publicists about this, is that during this time of shutdowns, where physical book mail is really not happening like it used to be, I'm going to be including eARCs that I have received in the mailbags. Because I think, for one thing, you guys have indicated that you would like that, and I am getting quite a bit more of them than usual as a result of, the world, right? So I'm going to be doing that today, in addition to the physical book mail that I've got over the past 2 weeks. I've got about 8 or 9 packages that have just sort of trickled in, which is nice. But the bulk of everything today is going to be the eARCs, because I have 18 of them to get through, and I don't think that's all of them. I think that there are still some that I still have to sort through that I'll have for you next week. So what that means is the mailbag is back in a big way, and this should be a pretty big episode, which is good, because I've noticed that the mailbags don't do especially well when they're short. I've noticed the views tend to really drop if they get to like 15 minutes or under. I don't know what that is. I guess people look at it and they go, well, it's kind of short this week. I guess nothing interesting came in, which is not necessarily true, right? I mean, even if there's only 4 or 5 books on a mailbag, how do you know, right? I mean, one of those books could be one that you've been waiting for all year. You never can tell, right? But as I said, we've got a whole lot of books to get through today, so we're really not going to waste any more time. Let's jump in and see what they are, shall we? And this first one is in from Blackstone Publishing. I think I might know what this is. And just as I thought, this is the finished copy in hardcover of Sons of War. This is a book by Nicholas Sansbury Smith, who wrote the Helldivers series, also for this publisher. And can I just say thank you. Thank you to the publishers who send their hardcover review copies in nice, sturdy boxes so that they don't turn up all beat to smithereens. That is just so nice to see when that happens. All right, but let's have a look here. This comes out, or has it come out? This came out, on April the 14th. And it says, Blackstone Publishing is thrilled to announce the forthcoming release of Sons of War by Nicholas Sansbury Smith. Sons of War is the first book in his gripping new Sons of War series, set in a gritty apocalyptic future where organized crime factions control what's left of America. That's kind of how it is now. Follow the Moretti Neapolitan crime families rise to power in a post-apocalyptic Los Angeles, and meet the brave few that risk everything to stop them from destroying what little remains of the city. Out of the embers, a lawless new empire will rise. Across the world, the United States recalls troops to combat civil unrest after the biggest economic meltdown in history. Marine Sergeant Ronaldo Salvatore's platoon comes home to a powder keg that could ignite a civil war. So, really nice, cheerful, upbeat reading for your lockdown needs. But Sons of War is available now from Blackstone Publishing in hardcover. Okay, this next one is in from Random Penguin. And this one's a pretty big one. This is Peace Talks. This is the newest and 16th volume in the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. This will be out on July the 14th. And let's see, the story goes on in Peace Talks as the beloved Harry Dresden joins the White Council security team to ensure that negotiations between the supernatural nations of the world remain civil. But can he succeed when dark political manipulations threaten the very existence of Chicago and all he holds dear? And what I understand is that this book was originally going to be quite a bit bigger, and so I think it was split in half. Maybe that's not exactly how it happened. But for whatever reason, I understand that the 17th Dresden Files novel, which I believe is called Battleground, is going to be out like almost immediately after this, either August or September or something like that. So pretty rapid fire on New Dresden stuff. But Peace Talks, as I said, will be available on July the 14th in hardcover. And more Random Penguin. Okay, this is another ARC. This one is in from Daw, and this is actually going to save time later in the video, because now I have 2 physical ARCs that I was not expecting that are repeated in the eARC list, so I can just skip over those. But this is Hela, and this is a new book by David Gerald, SF writing legend, of course. This will be out on June the 16th from Daw Books in hardcover. And it is described as a thrilling work of science fiction set in a world where everything is large, and the problems of survival are even larger. It's a standalone novel perfect for readers of Ann Leckie, Yoon-Ha Lee, and Alastair Reynolds. On Hela, everything is oversized. There are large herds of dinosaurs and extreme weather. The colonists have to migrate twice a year to escape the blistering heat of summer and the atmosphere-freezing cold of winter. Kyle is a neuroatypical young man with an implant that gives him real-time access to the colony's computer network. When an overburdened starship arrives, he becomes the link between the established colonists and the refugees from a ravaged Earth. But the Hela colony is barely self-sufficient and cannot stand the strain of 1,000 new arrivals. Kyle soon finds himself in the middle of a vast political conspiracy. Will he be able to prevent disaster? Okay. And as I said, available June the 16th. I mean, I kind of wonder why, if knowing the the climatic conditions on this planet, people would have colonized it in the first place. But there must have been a good reason, and maybe we'll find out in the book. But Hela by David Gerald. Now, for a change of pace, the next couple of books are in from Angry Robot, and the first of these is Samantov. The author is SFF180, and this book is translated from the Hebrew, which is interesting. And let's see, let me double check just to make sure. I do not see a cell sheet. Okay, I will just read it this way. When Detective Mazzy Samantov is called up to investigate the case of a missing girl, little does she know it is linked to a series of other mysterious disappearances of women. She is forced to partner with Yariv, her one-time lover and sometimes colleague. But as the investigation continues, otherworldly clues begin to appear at the crime scenes, including a black feather unlike that of any bird. As the clues mount, it becomes clear that an apocalypse is looming, as heaven's secret orders threaten to collide in a head-on war that imperils everyone on Earth. Can Mazzy and Yariv come together to save the world from being torn apart? See, I like the sound of that. And I love the cover, which is so unconventional and different that it just immediately catches your eye. So it looks really, really cool. Supernatural detective stuff is like, yeah, I mean, I'm not really into the paranormal investigator kind of thing, but if it's given maybe kind of a weird fiction slant, then I'm on board. And this sounds like it's that kind of thing. So, Samantov by SFF180 from Angry Robot. And the next one in from Angry Robot is 16th Watch from Mike Cole. Now, I've actually had both of these as eARCs for many months, but it's nice to have the physicals at last. And this is Mike, seems to be returning to his military science fiction roots, as it were. And so this one goes like this. Coast Guard Captain Jane Oliver must lead her newly acquired troops to prevent the first lunar war in history. And that's what's kind of nice about this one. It's like this is a military SF novel about the Coast Guard, which I don't think they've ever gotten enough love in, military science fiction. So good on you, Coast Guard. Anyway, having served as a search and rescue woman for 30 years, Captain Jane Oliver is ready for a peaceful retirement. But when tragedy strikes, Oliver's plans are shattered and she finds herself thrust into a role she's not prepared for. Suddenly at the helm of the Coast Guard's elite SAR-1 lunar unit, Oliver is the only one who can prevent all-out war on the surface of the moon, a conflict that will surely consume the Earth as well. And it all unfolds in 16th Watch, which is available now from Angry Robot. Okay, now this next one, I have no idea who this is from, so we shall see. Well, this is a nice surprise and very unexpected. It is in from Tor. And this is The Poet King by Ilana C. Meyer. And this is the third book in the trilogy that began with Last Song Before Night. And admittedly, now I reviewed that book on the channel. I admit I was a little lukewarm on it, but I did like a lot of what it was doing. It's kind of set in this world. The character in that book, the protagonist, is this woman who is undertaking music teaching, and magic is related to music. And the society, in this society, that is legally forbidden to women to study that. So, and then the adventure goes on from there. And so, yeah, while I was a little disappointed in the way that book ended, but I liked the world. And I have been wanting to continue on with the trilogy. So I've had the second book for a while, and now the third book, The Poet King, is available. And so, yeah, I think that I would really like to give the second and third books a chance. So this is available now in hardcover from Tor Books, The Poet King by Ilana C. Meyer. And now I have the only white envelope of the week, so I know for a fact this one is going to be a Tor book. And it is. This is Critical Point. The author is S.L. Huang, and this is the third in her Kaz Russell series about a math genius mercenary, Kaz Russell. S.L. Huang is a weapons expert and a Hollywood stuntwoman. She worked on Battlestar Galactica. And if you watched my 2 recent review videos where I cover the shortlists in the short story categories for the Hugo and Nebulas this year, I think in the second of those videos, basically I declare S.L. Huang's story to be the best of all the nominees. Because it is, because I'm always right about these things. Anyway, so Critical Point is her newest novel, and so clearly this is a writer you should be paying attention to. Okay. With her extraordinary mathematical ability, Kaz Russell has stopped a shadow organization from brainwashing the world and discovered her past was, well, God, that's all spoilery. I just can't read any more of that. Well, anyway, she has apparently more very, very tense adventures. This looks like the kind of thing that might, appeal to... It's not going to be... I'm not going to say it's not cyberpunk or anything like that, but it might be that sort of edgy future, if you know what I mean. But this comes out tomorrow, April the 28th, from Tor, Critical Point. And for the last of the physical packages this week, this one appears to have come in from Hachette. And this is just out, it is Bone Silence by Alistair Reynolds. This is the third and final book in his Revenger trilogy, starting with Revenger and Shadow Captain. This is actually a YA trilogy. And so while the first couple of books were, a little bit different for Reynolds, it's like this one is very much, looks like an Alistair Reynolds book, right? 600 pages of space opera goodness. So happy to see this. Bone Silence. And is there anything at all I can say about it? The thrilling finale to the Revenger trilogy tells a desperate tale of greed, piracy, shadow governments, and ancient secrets that could unravel all of civilization. Because what good is an ancient secret if it doesn't unravel all of civilization, right? Go for the high stakes. Okay, so Bone Silence, available now by Alistair Reynolds from Orbit. Okay, everybody, now we get to the eARC section of the mailbag. This is new. Very different kind of a thing. One of the things that is part of the appeal of the mailbags, right, is the whole physicality of it. The opening of packages where I don't know what's inside, you don't know what's inside, the book is always a surprise. That's the fun of it, but we don't get that with this. But at least we get to see new books, right? Circumstances being what they are, it can't really be helped. And at least they're getting new books to me this way. And I want to just say thanks and send a shout out of appreciation to all of the hardworking publicists who are really pouring it on working from home, because this has got to be an absolute nightmare of a time to be releasing new books and trying to promote new books and get attention to new books when, the bookstores are closed down. Some of the stores now in my area, they're open for like curbside pickup only, which is good. If they're doing that at least means they're not going out of business, right? But then God knows what's happening to the small indies. Anyway, I'm yammering on when you guys want to be seeing books. And so we're going to start with the Tor arcs. This is, knowing everything in advance now, I was able to organize this list by publisher, which I don't usually get to do. So starting with the Tor books, the first one of these is Architects of Memory by Karen Osborne. This comes out August the 25th. And it goes like this. Millions died after the first contact. An alien weapon holds the key to redemption or annihilation. Experience Karen Osborne's unforgettable science fiction debut, Architects of Memory. Terminally ill salvage pilot Ash Jackson lost everything in the war with the alien Vi. But she'll be damned if she loses her future. Her plan? to buy, beg, or lie her way out of corporate indenture and find a cure. When her crew salvages a genocidal weapon from a ravaged starship above a dead colony, Ash uncovers a conspiracy of corporate intrigue and betrayal that threatens to turn her into a living weapon. Okay, so that is going to be some new space opera for August. And I think it's the first in a duology. At least I know that there is one more book in the series to come. August the 25th from Tor. And following that, we have Attack Surface. This is the next book by Cory Doctorow. This comes out October 13th. And this is a new standalone novel in his Little Brother series, which is a YA kind of dystopia series. Before everybody got tired of that kind of thing, Little Brother was really, really good. And so now we have Attack Surface, which is, like I said, it's set apart. It's meant to be read as a standalone. And it goes like this. Most days, Masha Maximow was sure she'd chosen the winning side. In her day job as a counterterrorism wizard for a transnational cybersecurity firm, she made the hacks that allowed repressive regimes to spy on dissidents and manipulate their every move. The perks were fantastic and the pay was obscene. Just for fun and to piss off her masters, Masha sometimes used her mad skills to help those same troublemakers evade detection, if their cause was just. It was a dangerous game and a hell of a rush, but seriously self-destructive and unsustainable. When her targets were strangers in faraway police states, it was easy to compartmentalize, to ignore the collateral damage of murder, rape, and torture. But when it hits close to home, and the hacks and exploits she's devised are directed at her friends and family, including boy wonder Marcus Yallo, her old crush and arch-rival, and his entourage of naive idealists, Masha realizes she has to choose. And whatever choice she makes, someone is going to get hurt. All right, so I guess this is one for maybe the Deus Ex crowd, right? But Attack Surface by Cory Doctorow, available October the 13th. And next we have, I think, a book that hopefully will be very, very special. And a bit melancholy. This is Interlibrary Loan. And it is the final book by Gene Wolfe, who died last year. Gene Wolfe was sort of an off-the-wall fantasy master. He wasn't necessarily somebody who took over the bestseller lists, but he was deeply respected by everyone in the field as being a really unique voice. And it was very much in a class by himself. And Interlibrary Loan is the sequel to a book that came out, I want to say 2015, 2016, called A Borrowed Man. And the future is kind of like this. Hundreds of years in the future, our civilization is shrunk down, but we go on. There is advanced technology, and there are robots, and there are clones. E.A. Smith is a borrowed person, his personality an uploaded recording of a deceased mystery writer. Smith is a piece of property, not a legal human. As such, Smith can be loaned to other branches, which he is. Along with two fellow reclones, a cookbook and romance writer, they are shipped to Polly's Cove, where Smith meets a little girl who wants to save her mother, a father who is dead but perhaps not, and another E.A. Smith who definitely is. All right, so Interlibrary Loan will be out June the 30th, the final novel from Gene Wolfe. Coming up next, it's just so weird to do these without pausing to pick up an envelope, tear it open, right? Okay, hey, new things. Coming up next is Quantum Shadows. This is a new book by the ever-prolific Ellie Modesett Jr. Bookmaking Factory. This comes out July the 21st. And it looks like it is sort of a space fantasy, not really so much a space opera or science fiction, but a space fantasy, kind of in the Star Wars vein. On a world called Heaven, the 10 major religions of mankind each have its own land, governed by a capital city and ruled by a hegemon. That hegemon may be a god or a prophet of a god. Smaller religions have their own towns or villages of belief. Corvin, known as the Shadow of the Raven, contains the collective memory of humanity's falls from grace. With this knowledge comes enormous power. When unknown power burns a mysterious black image into the holy place of each house of the Decalivre, Corvin must discover what entity could possibly have that much power. The stakes are nothing less than another fall, and if he doesn't stop it, mankind will not rise from the ashes. So there you go. Science fiction, science fantasy by Ellie Modesett Jr. out in July, Quantum Shadows. Now, next up, we have a Tor.com release, and this one is a bit on the provocative side, I must say. It's called Ring Shout. It's by P.J. Lee Clark, who wrote The Haunting of Tramcar 015 and The Black God's Drums, two very, very well-received novellas. And this next one is fairly anticipated. Not pulling any punches, as you can see. It says it's a dark fantasy historical novella that gives a supernatural twist to the Ku Klux Klan's reign of terror. D.W. Griffith is a sorcerer, and The Birth of a Nation is a spell that drew upon the darkest thoughts and wishes from the heart of America. Now, rising in power and prominence, the Klan has a plot to unleash hell on earth. Luckily, Maurice Boudreau has a magic sword and a head full of tails. When she's not running bootleg whiskey through Prohibition, Georgia, she's fighting monsters she calls Ku Kluxes. She's damn good at it, too. But to confront this ongoing evil, she must journey between worlds to face otherworldly nightmares and her own demons. Together with a foul-mouthed sharpshooter and a Harlem hellfighter, Maurice sets out to save a world from the hate that would consume it. Cool. All right. So that is available, as I said, October the 13th. Ring Shout. And, yeah, it looks like, several more from Tor. Next up is Space Station Down. This is by Ben Bova and Doug Beeson. It's out August the 4th. And this one is basically Die Hard on the ISS. Okay? So if you want your just dumb escapist action-adventure, we got you covered here, looks like. When an ultra-rich space tourist visits the orbiting International Space Station, NASA expects a $100 million win-win. His visit will bring in much-needed funding and publicity, but the tourist venture turns into a scheme of terror. Together with an extremist cosmonaut, the tourist slaughters all the astronauts on board the million-pound ISS and prepares to crash it into New York City at 17,500 miles an hour, causing more devastation than 100 atomic bombs. In doing so, they hope to annihilate the world's financial system. All that stands between them and their deadly goal is the lone survivor aboard the ISS, Kimberly Hasid Robinson, a newly divorced astronaut who has barricaded herself in a secure area. All right, so it's a Netflix movie waiting to happen, right? But Space Station Down, available on August the 4th. Ben Bova and Doug Beeson. And next up, we have a book coming out from Tor that I've already actually put in the list. Remember, in the last mailbag, I just added a list of titles to the description of eARCs that I'd received, but I decided to go ahead and showcase this one because I know a lot of people are looking forward to it. And this is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This will be out October the 6th. And it is set in France in 1714. In a moment of desperation, a young woman makes a Faustian bargain to live forever and is cursed to be forgotten by everyone she meets. Thus begins the extraordinary life of Addie LaRue, and a dazzling adventure that will play out across centuries and continents, across history and art, as a young woman learns how far she will go to leave her mark on the world. But everything changes when, after nearly 300 years, Addie stumbles across a young man in a hidden bookstore, and he remembers her name. Okay, and so that will be available, as I said, October the 6th, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Now, next up is one that really has me going. You know me, I'm the horror guy, right? And Night of the Mannequins is a new Tor.com novella by Stephen Graham Jones. Be available on September the 1st. Stephen Graham Jones is a Native American horror writer. He also has written the Mapping the Interior, was a previous Tor.com novella from him, and he also has a new novel out from Saga Press called The Only Good Indians, which I'm dying to read, and now I can do both of these back to back, which is sweet. But this is called Night of the Mannequins. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of the pitch here, because this is all it took to sell me on this story. A group of bored teenagers decides to play a prank at the local movie theater. They pose a discarded store mannequin as one of the patrons. Things get complicated when one of the teenagers sees the mannequin walk out of the theater at the movie's end. That's it. I'm in. All right. But Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones will be out on September the 1st. Okay. Now, here comes one finally at long last that I'm super thrilled to pieces for. I have been embarrassingly delayed in getting the second book in this series reviewed, but I now have no more excuses because we now have coming up The Tyrants, Beru Cormorants by Seth Dickinson. This will be out August the 11th. And from what I understand, I think Seth Dickinson had originally planned something like 4 or 5 books in the Masquerade series, I mean. And now I think he has pared it back to a trilogy. So this is the last one. And it's like 800 pages. So we're going to get a lot of pain this time, people, I suspect. But yeah, wow. Of course, my thinking was that the Trader Beru Cormorant was the best fantasy, novel of 2015. And so I'm hoping that this ends on a powerful note to match that. But it says, the hunt is over. After 15 years of lies and sacrifice, Beru Cormorant has the power to destroy the Imperial Republic of Falcrest. And the secret society called the Cancrioth is real, and Beru is among them. Beru's enemies, I want to try to skip over some things to not be too spoilery, but it says her enemies are closing in from all sides. Beru's own mind teeters on the edge of madness or shattering revelation. Now she must choose between genocidal revenge and a far more difficult path, a conspiracy of judges, kings, spies, and immortals, puppeteering the world's riches and 2 great wars in a gambit for the ultimate prize. Okay, Seth, I really expect you to hurt me with this one. I expect you to hurt me, all right? So don't let me down. The Tyrant Beru Cormorant on August the 11th. Now, finally, we have the last of the Tor eARCs here, and this is a book called Sorcery of a Queen. The author is Brian Naslund. This will be out August the 4th, and this is the second book in the Dragons of Terra series. And I've already gotten the first one, which is also supposed to be out in the first week of August. I think the dates are a little confused on these. Maybe this has been delayed. Because of, again, the virus. They've done that. Blood of an Exile is the first book. Because it says it comes out in August, but this is a finished copy, a finished paperback copy. Little unusual to get finished copies several months in advance. So I think this is one of those that they rescheduled. But we have Blood of an Exile, and then we have Sorcery of a Queen. And so I don't know if the date for that one is going to change at all. But it says, they called her the Witch Queen, driven from her kingdom. The would-be queen now seeks haven in the land of her mother. But Ashlyn will not stop until justice has been done. Determined to unlock the secret of powers long thought impossible, Ashlyn bends her will and intelligence to mastering the one thing people always accused her of, sorcery. Meanwhile, having learned the truth of his mutation, Bershad is a man on borrowed time. Never knowing when his healing powers will drive him to self-destruction, he is determined to see Ashlyn restored to her throne and the creatures they both love safe. Okay. So, all right, so that's a duology, I suppose, or might continue in future volumes later on. But Sorcery of a Queen in August by Brian Naslund. Okay, so now we're going to move ahead to the random Penguin titles, Ace, Daw, all of those. And looks like we get to do some skipping here to save some time. I can skip Hela, and I can skip Peace Talks. That's handy. Cool. All right, so that leaves 3 random Penguin titles to cover here, and the first of these is American Demon by Kim Harrison. This will be out June the 16th, and this is a new novel in her Hollows series, even though she ostensibly, I guess, finished that urban fantasy series. Well, here's another one, because no urban fantasy series is done until until ever, right? But it says, when the world last saw Rachel Morgan in 2014, it was with the belief that it was goodbye. She had finally, after 10 years and 14 books, reached her happy ending, but what happened before the epilogue? Ah, see, that's how you do it. When all the threads came together and we waved Rachel off into her future, this is what Kim Harrison, widely beloved and acclaimed for the Hollow series that brought Rachel to life, has come back to tell us in American Demon. So that will be available on June the 16th for all of you Kim Harrison and urban fantasy fans. And next up after that, we have a YA space opera. This will be Aurora Burning by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This will be out May the 5th, and it's the sequel to Aurora Rising, which is their latest YA space opera collaboration, which I have heard, to be perfectly honest, very mixed reviews of, among the YA booktubers. But anyway, this one, as I said, will be out May the 5th, and it says picking up right where Aurora Burning left off. This ambitious sequel continues the mission of Squad 312, a band of misfits, losers, and discipline cases who are in way over their heads. Shocking revelations, bank heists, mysterious gifts, inappropriately tight bodysuits, and an epic firefight will determine the fate of the Aurora Legion's most unforgettable heroes, and quite possibly the fate of the rest of the galaxy too. Okay, so, as I said, May the 5th. And finally, for all you Mercedes Lackey fans, we have Spy, Spy Again. And this is the third in the most recent series cycle set in her Valdemar universe. This one goes like this. 13-year Prince Chiral and Mags and Amelie's 14-year-old son Tori, share the gift of Farsight, although neither of them are chosen. They are self-trained, though currently their shared gift only allows them to see what is happening with their immediate family members. After much debate, the Herald's Collegium has decided to test and train them anyway, and that's when the surprises start. They do not share a single gift, they have two complementary gifts working together in a way that the Heralds have never seen before. So if you are a fan of the Valdemar novels, then you'll be happy to know, as I said, Spy, Spy Again will be out on June the 9th from Doll Books in hardcover. All right, so next we're moving on to HarperCollins. HarperCollins have sent me a bunch of books over the last couple of weeks. I want to say thanks to them. And this first one, I got to tell you, I have all kinds of mad respect for a book that just does what it says on the label, right? And so the first of these is a YA horror novel coming out August the 25th called Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Cesar. And yeah, I mean, if you wanted to come up with a better title for a YA horror novel, you simply could not do it. This is the absolute pinnacle of achievement in titles. Clowns are bad enough as they are, right? I mean, but if you see one in a cornfield, you are absolutely fucked, right? There's no helping you. But anyway, yeah, this sounds like a classic kind of kids on bikes horror story, right? Goes like this. Quinn Maybrook just wants to make it until graduation. She might not make it till morning. Quinn and her father moved to tiny, boring Kettle Springs to find a fresh start. But ever since the Bay Pen corn syrup factory shut down, Kettle Springs has cracked in half. On one side are the adults who are desperate to make Kettle Springs great again, and on the other are the kids who want to have fun, make prank videos, and get out of Kettle Springs as quick as they can. Kettle Springs is caught in a battle between old and new, tradition and progress. It's a fight that looks like it will destroy the town, until Friendo, the Bay Pen mascot, a creepy clown in a pork pie hat, goes homicidal and decides that the only way for Kettle Springs to grow back is to cull the rotten crop of kids who live there now. See what I mean? It's like he even has the audacity to have a No Country for Old Men reference in all of this. So yeah. Okay, so Clown in a Cornfield, August the 25th. Be ready. Okay, stay out of cornfields. And next up after that is something quite different. This is a space opera, kind of a swashbuckling space opera, by Bennett R. Coles. It's called Dark Star Rising, and it is the sequel to Winds of Mark, and this is very much a space opera, in the Horatio Hornblower vein, the Edmund O'Brien Master and Commander kind of a thing. That's the inspiration, right? And it says, the misfit crew of HMSS Daring are on a covert mission to dismantle a sprawling pirate network threatening the Empire in this enthralling second Blackwood and Virtue novel. A thrilling, action-packed blend of the military sea adventures of Patrick O'Brien's Master and Commander series, as I said, and Jim Butcher's sci-fi Cinder Spires novels. Well, I think there's only been one of those so far. But anyway, exuberant after scoring a major victory against enemy pirates, the star-sailing ship HMSS Daring eagerly embarks on its new mission. Until the pirate network is dismantled and its mysterious leader Darkstar brought to justice, the safety of the Empire remains in jeopardy. Supported by the ship's misfit crew, Sub-Commander Liam Blackwood and Quartermaster Amelia Virtue go undercover, following leads that take them deep into the pirate network. Yet the closer they get to its center and the elusive Dark Star, the clearer it becomes that all is not what it seems. So there you go. Deep space, space opera, swashbuckling fun, right? On September the 29th, Dark Star Rising. Whew! Getting a little parched, but we continue. Don't Call the Wolf is up next. It's a book by Alexandra Ross, and it is out tomorrow, April the 28th. And this one is a YA adventure, and it says it's described for fans of The Wrath in the Dawn and The Hazel Wood. And it goes like this. When the Golden Dragon descended on the forest of Kamenia, a horde of monsters followed in its wake. Ren, the forest's young queen, is slowly losing her battle against them, until she rescues Lucas, the last survivor of a heroic regiment of dragon slayers, and they strike a deal. She will help him find his brother, who vanished into her forest, if Lucas promises to slay the dragon. But promises are all too easily broken. And this gorgeously imagined standalone fantasy takes readers on a journey full of simmering tension, lush romance, and evocative folklore. And it's out tomorrow. Don't Call the Wolf by Alexandra Ross. And we follow that one up with what? Oh, this one looks cute. I'm behind on this series, as I am with everything, but this is definitely one I still want to read. This is a book called Prime Deceptions. It's by Valerie Valdez, and it is the sequel to her book Chilling Effect, which came out last fall. And it's kind of a very cute sort of maybe Firefly-ish kind of space opera adventure, as it were. The lovably flawed crew of La Sirena Negra, the Black Mermaid, and their psychic cats return in this fast-paced and outrageously fun science fiction novel, in which they confront past failures and face new threats in the far reaches of space from the author of the critically acclaimed Chilling Effect. Gotta switch arms here. Captain Eva Innocente and the crew of La Sirena Negra find themselves once again on the fringe of populated space and at the center of a raging covert war. When Eva's sister asks for help locating a missing scientist, promises of a big paycheck and a noble cause convince Eva to take the job despite lingering trust issues. To complete her mission and get paid, Eva must navigate a paradise embroiled in a rebellion, where massive forests and pristine beaches hide psychic creatures and pervasive surveillance technology. Can she find her quarry while avoiding the oppressive local regime, or will she be doomed to repeat past mistakes when her dark deeds come to light? All right, there you have it. September the 8th, Prime Deceptions, the new space opera by Valerie Valdez, with, don't forget, psychic cats. Just in time for Space Opera September. Okay. And finally, this is going to be the last one here from Harper. And this is a YA. And it's one that I actually had on my anticipated list, as a matter of fact. Okay. It's Star Daughter. The author is Shveta Thakrar. It's a debut. And this is really sounds nice. Neil Gaiman's Stardust meets a rich landscape of Hindu mythology and celestial intrigue in this sparkling YA fantasy debut. The daughter of a star and a mortal, Sheetal is used to keeping secrets, but when a flare of starfire injures her human father, Sheetal needs a full star's help to heal him. A star like her mother who returned to the sky long ago. Sheetal's quest will take her to a celestial court of shining wonders and dark shadows, where she must act as her family's champion in a competition to decide the next ruling house of the heavens, or risk never returning to Earth at all. And Star Daughter will be out, as I said, on August the 11th. Debut by Shveta Thakrar. Whew, okay. There we have it. A whole lot of books. This is the very first mailbag ever on this channel to feature eARCs. Let me know what you think. And otherwise, you guys know the drill. Light up those comments. Let me know which of these looks most interesting and exciting to you, and which you would like to see me prioritize for review. Otherwise, if you enjoyed watching, please hit that like button, share the video far and wide with all of your SFF reading friends, and above all, please subscribe if you have not done so. That is how the channel grows. You can also support the channel at my TeePublic store and at my Patreon, where recruits in the Winx Army get little perks like getting to see some of my videos early. I want to thank all of those folks for their additional support. 2 new patrons in the last couple of weeks. Welcome to you and thank you. I want to thank all the rest of you for being the very best viewers in all of BookTube, and until I see you next time, stay safe and happy reading.